Number 10 for Total Pro Sports. They got the one and only Mike Tomlin at number 10 right now in the NFL. Interesting. I mean, obviously, Mike Tomlin, 8 consecutive years in the playoffs and falling flat on his face. He has not won a playoff game in 8 years. So my answer to that would be thumbs down. I do not believe Mike Tomlin is a top 10 coach right now in the NFL. Hence the reason why I believe he will be fired at the end of the season. I would put right now Kevin O'Connell or Sean Payton in that position right now in the top 10. Number 9, Kyle Shanahan, a guy that has not won a Super Bowl as a head coach. He's been there for almost 8 years or 8 years. He's got 2 new contracts and has failed to win a Super Bowl with one of the best defensive teams in all of the league for the 8 years he's been there. It's been a huge problem. Nick Bosa is one of the best pass rushers in the league. They have one of the great linebackers in all of football. And they have Christian McCaffrey, who's been there for quite a few years as well, one of the best running backs in the league. They've had Deebo Samuel, who's the trifecta. I call him the trifecta because he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, he can throw the ball. He can do everything. He was there. They had Ayuk. They had everybody. They have George Kittle, and they still couldn't get over the hump. So I would take Kyle Shanahan out of the top 10 right now. I give him 2 thumbs down, and I would put Dan Quinn there. That's where I would put. After what Dan Quinn has done as a coach in his first year, taking his team to an NFC title game, I would put Dan Quinn at number 9. Number 8, Jim Harbaugh. I think Jim Harbaugh is one of the top 4 coaches right now in the NFL. I disagree with them on putting him at 8. I think he's much higher than that. For what Jim Harbaugh has done over the last 2 years, and this is his second year with the Chargers, is absolutely amazing. You can argue Harbaugh deserves a higher place right now, but will need an extended look at La La Land. The national championship win head coach immediately left his mark by leading the Bolts to 11 wins and the NFL's top defense last season. Harbaugh has won wherever he's gone. Can the Chargers take the next step to emerge as a Super Bowl contender in 2025? I disagree with them, even though I like what they had to say. They won 11 games last year. I think they're going to win more games this year. I think this team is so much better than they were last year, and I think this defense is going to explode right off the paper as one of the top 5 defenses in all of football. I do believe Coach Harbaugh is higher than this, so I'm going to give him 2 thumbs down. I used to think DeMeco Ryan would be there, but I disagree. I don't think DeMeco Ryan is in the top 10 after what we've seen so far this year. I would put Matt LaFleur here. Matt LaFleur with the Green Bay Packers, I think he's a sensational offensive coordinator. I think everything that he's done with the Green Bay Packers and the development of some of the young players that he has, Jordan Love, he was his pick, his choice to move away from Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to put Matt LaFleur at number 8. At number 7, they have Matt LaFleur. And I disagree. And again, there's a lot of reasons why I wouldn't have Matt LaFleur in the top 7. But I disagree with them. I think Matt LaFleur has been successful. I think he's been sensational. I think he's a top 10 coach right now in the NFL. Very well deserved. But putting him at 7 when there's quite a few other coaches I would put ahead of him, I would put Sean McDermott, who has had a great career so far with Buffalo. Has fallen short, but he is taking this Buffalo Bills team. Remember, this guy was a defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. A lot of people thought that Buffalo could have went in many different directions at the coaching position, and they went with Sean McDermott. So I would put Sean McDermott at 7. I'll give him 2 thumbs down. At number 6, they have Sean McDermott. I wouldn't put Sean McDermott over there. I would put John Harbaugh over there. John Harbaugh, I would put him closer to the top 5 right now. John Harbaugh has to prove himself this year to take that next step with a young quarterback in Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's 28. He just got a big new contract in the offseason. I think he's a sensational quarterback. He needs to stay healthy, and this team needs to take that next step. So I'm going to put 2 thumbs down. Sean McDermott would be 1 at 7. I would put Jim Harbaugh at number 6. At number 5, they have Dan Campbell. Now, I think Dan Campbell is higher than this. I think Dan Campbell, he was coach of the year last year. He's been sensational with the Lions. The development of some of the young players. He took on Jared Goff. Over the last couple of years, Jared Goff has become one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Transition when a lot of teams, including Sean McVay, didn't think he was a starting quarterback or a number one quarterback in the NFL. They took a chance with him, got to cut a ton of draft stock for Matthew Stafford, and look what they've turned out to be. So I'm going to say that Dan Campbell is higher than this. I would give him 2 thumbs down. I think he's a lot higher than this. I would put Sean McVay at number 5. I'll tell you why I would put Sean McVay at number 5. He did win a Super Bowl. Sean McVay is one of the more overrated coaches in NFL history. Now, I know you like him, Joba. I know he won a Super Bowl, and I know a lot of people think that he is the mastermind of that offense. He really isn't. He came from the Kyle Shanahan tree. He also came from Mike Shanahan's tree. I think everything that he runs is really what Mike Shanahan ran over the years. And I think he's a great coach. I think he's been successful. I just think that the last couple of seasons, he hasn't been as good as he was when he won the Super Bowl with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. So I would put him at 5, and I would move Dan Campbell to number 3. At number 4, Nick Sirianni, I agree with them. Nick Sirianni deserves a lot of credit. Nick Sirianni has been sensational. He almost got fired last year. And you know about the coaching staff. Both his coaches, one went to Indianapolis, the other one went to Arizona. And after that, they kind of fell flat on the face, and he had to make moves. He brought Kellen Moore there. He brought a competent coach, a defensive coordinator there, and you saw what they did. They won a Super Bowl last year. They made some good moves. They have one of the best GMs in all of football. You can argue he is the best GM in football, and he decided to sit with Sirianni last offseason and told Sirianni, "You're my guy. I believe you can take us to the promised land and win a Super Bowl." And he did. So I'm going to go Nick Sirianni, thumbs up. I think Sirianni is 4. At number 3, Dan Campbell is sitting pretty there. I think Dan Campbell is absolutely a top 3 coach right now in the NFL, winning Coach of the Year. I disagree with them with Sean McVay. I don't think Sean McVay is a top 3 coach right now in the NFL. His failures over the last 2 years, even though a lot of people say he brought a young team, they have a young defense, and he had to rebuild that defense, and that's fine. Great for him. Great coaches find a way to win, and that's what I say. And the guy, even though he has Matthew Stafford, even though he's lost Aaron Donald and he's added some youngsters, I don't know if Sean McVay would be in my top 3. Dan Campbell has been as sensational over the last 3 or 4 years as a coach you would expect to be. He won Coach of the Year last year, and a successful Lions team that went all the way to an NFC title game and was a couple plays short over the last couple of years. So I'm going to go with Dan Campbell at number 3. Number 2, John Harbaugh. I absolutely thumbs up. I think John Harbaugh has been very successful as a head coach in the NFL. He's won Super Bowl. He actually beat his brother Jimmy. He outlasted Jim Harbaugh against the San Francisco 49ers. Remember the lights went out. Remember that whole story. But John Harbaugh has been very successful. He's had plenty of coaches on that coaching staff and has been successful every single year. This is one of the best defenses in the league, year in and year out. Since Lamar Jackson, he's coached Lamar Jackson. He's transitioned his offense into a style that has fit Lamar Jackson. They've had arguably one of the best running games in football year in and year out over the years. And guys like Hill and all these other guys, Dobbins, there are guys that have been in and out of this Baltimore Ravens, different running backs, and still has dominated at the running game year in and year out. And I don't think they've ever had a number 1 wide receiver since John Harbaugh's been there. You could argue that they haven't. So I'm going to go with John Harbaugh at number 2. And number 1, I believe he's the best coach in the NFL. I don't think there's any argument to that right now. This guy has been the face of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's the fattest person and the fattest coach right now in the NFL. There's no question he is. He likes his hamburgers. He likes his Whoppers. Maybe we hook him up with Speedy's mom as she's Mrs. Willie Whoppers. That's Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid is the best offensive mind in NFL history. You can argue when you look at the San Francisco offenses, you talk about, because he comes from that tree. You talk about Gibbs. You talk about all these different coaches over the years. I don't know if there's anybody that has been as prolific and as smart as Andy Reid. I'm going to go Andy Reid as my number 1, 2 thumbs up.